What's up, everyone? Good morning. Welcome to another Kung Fu Talk, your favorite martial arts podcast. Before giving the introduction of our guest today, just please, I want to ask you to share, subscribe, like, give us some thought about our show, about what you guys think, and about who you guys would like to have here in our show. Of course, we try to invite many different masters. Sometimes we have to work in their availability, on their time, on their schedule, but we try our best to make this show going. Make sure you also check our channel in Portuguese. We also have a lot of cool stuff over there too. Of course, mainly conversations we have there's with grandmasters from Brazil. We also have some cool videos about martial arts and video games. When it comes about video games related to martial arts as well. So today, this morning, I have here Sifu Fred. How are you doing today? Straight from Florida.
Good. Thanks for having me, Sifu. Yeah, happy to be a part of this. I love spreading the word of Kung Fu and Tai Chi and helping people understand it. Just sharing what we feel.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, we're gonna talk today about martial arts, especially traditional martial arts, and I want you to tell us, for those who do not understand, who doesn't have any thoughts, maybe they're watching a show, they're listening to a show, and they're thinking about practicing something, or they're looking for maybe, maybe Tai Chi is the best bet, maybe Kung Fu is the best bet, and for them it suits them better. So it's good to have good people like you with good knowledge. I've been following for a while. I've been seeing your videos. You're constantly practicing. You're practicing. I'm pretty much what I'm seeing every single day. It's
10 days a
beautiful
week.
to see. That's nice. That's amazing. That's how you should be. That's a real martial artist right there. I want to start asking you, how did you first get introduced to martial arts? What inspired you to pursue Tai Chi and Shaolin Kung Fu?
Okay, well, the way it started for me was I loved wrestling. I was very into the WWF at the time. And so we would kill each other in elementary school. After school, we would make belts and everything. And then when I went into middle school, I joined wrestling. And from there, I just loved the art of just moving the body and competition against other people. And then over time, I had some friends that were going to a Shaolin Kempo school. So they were like, hey, come over here, come try it out. And that was the first time I really punched and kicked because I had just been a grappler for so long. And actually, I had did some judo for about 2 years after the wrestling. So I was a long-term grappler, about 8-9 years. And then I started Shaolin Kempo, and everything changed. It was punching, kicking, so on. And in this school, I was 19, and that entire school was just about fighting. It wasn't like traditional Kung Fu like we do now, even though it's called Shaolin, but it's kind of like karate version of Kung Fu. So I did that for a while, and then some stuff happened where the teacher ended up not being there anymore. And a friend of mine was going to a Kung Fu school down the street. And he's like, hey, come try this out, just see what it is. I was like, sure, I'll come try it out. And I went there, and they made us hold horse stance. They made us hold bow and arrow. They made us hold cat. They made us hold twist and stance. And I had never felt a burn like that in my life. And that was a very, very crude awakening for me. And I was like, wow. What is this? I need this. I could just immediately I realized what it would do for me physically, and physically it was where I was because I was 19. And then obviously over time it evolves and you start to realize that it has done all these positive things for you and you move forward and things change.
It's amazing how when we start practicing something that we really love it, and it's like living a life of traditional martial arts and a traditional martial artist. As a traditional martial artist, you start realizing things that you don't even realize before. I was yesterday interviewing this Eagle Claw master in Brazil, and we are talking about how important it is, the simple things as breathing, understanding how to breathe properly, understanding how to walk properly. I remember my Sifu Rafael for my first session of Tai Chi back in 2016. He was telling me like in the first session, the first thing he taught me was how to walk. I was like, what do you mean you're gonna teach me how to walk? It's just a simple thing that we don't just do on automatically. And then you realize that, living after like 25 years, I was back then 25, I was like, I don't know how to walk with 25 years. And then martial arts teaches you the basics.
That's right. I go over that with everybody. Let's start with how our feet touch the ground and how we shift our weight and how our knees are aligned. And that stuff's so important. Once you get that stuff right, the biomechanics, right, you get all that stuff in alignment, then that's already like a huge part of the battle, right? You're just making yourself healthier and stronger. You're reducing the errors. And a lot of people ask me, hey, what's Tai Chi? How does that work? And I'm like, well, basically, you improve yourself. The more you improve yourself, the the stronger you become, and the harder it is for anybody else to move you. And as you have improved all your errors, you see all the errors in your opponent, and it's that simple.
Exactly. And one thing is know yourself better. And that's the best benefit
Get to
because
know yourself. Yes.
90% of the people, like myself, when I was a kid and enjoying to Kung Fu, I want to know how to fight. I want to know how to protect myself. But
Right.
martial arts, traditional Chinese martial arts, is deeper than that. It's more than just learning how to fight. Learning how to fight is just the tip of the iceberg. All the philosophical
Yeah.
culture that we
Absolutely.
have there. It's beautiful.
I like to tell people that's a side effect, the self defense part. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, the real fight's against yourself, right? It's not against the opponents. But when you sign up as a young man, and of course everybody has their different experiences, but generally the young man who just wants to fight and sticks with it, it all changes over time, and that's where the magic is in it, for me at least.
Exactly. That's beautiful. What was the most challenging aspect of mastering Tai Chi or Shaolin Kung Fu, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so there's a lot of things to it. Of course, in a real good kung fu school, the workout is really intense. And since I had done wrestling, I think I just kind of gravitated to it because wrestling in high school is similar to kung fu classes at the right school. It's just a hard workout over and over, consistency, and I love that. Probably one of the biggest challenges for me was finding a good teacher. I think that's probably a big challenge for a lot of people is finding the teacher.
Mhm.
So a lot of people will ask me, "Hey, what style of kung fu should I do? What style of tai chi?" I'm like, you don't have that option. Where's the good teacher? Whatever that good teacher is, wherever he is, whatever he's teaching, that's what you need to learn, right? You just have to go with what's around you. So I used to drive for an hour and a half, 3, 4 times a week, each direction to learn, and over years and years and years, and travel here and there and flown around, just trying to accumulate as much as I can. So the challenge has been like really learning it, and I'm still looking for new guys to learn from, and new teachers that when I go show up to them, they make me feel like I don't know anything. Like I love that feeling. Those guys are are just on a next level. So we're always trying to elevate as we go.
Absolutely, I know exactly what you're feeling. Unfortunately, in America, I feel that martial arts became more as such as a business instead of a way of life, and people are too comfortable of, oh, I'm just gonna go, I don't go over 2 miles, around my residence in order to practice. They want to feel comfortable. I
Yeah,
remember when I was looking for instructor, Wing Chun instructor, Tai Chi instructor, Kung Fu instructor. I was driving 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. My Shuai Jiao instructor at this moment, he's in Cupertino, so I have to drive all the way, 1 hour every Sunday to go meet him. Unfortunately, I got an injury on my side. Like now, he put me down for for a few months doing therapy now. Feel sad, but it's still I still practice with him. Some we go over forms and stuff, but it's the benefit of actually learning from somebody who actually know. It's a privilege nowadays because with the technology, people are doing so sort of stuff that you see online, like, you think is legit, and sometimes it's not legit. And when we find someone who
that's
actually
right.
doing a really good work, like you, I see your videos every day, like you physically fit you, like you're showing yourself, you're actually showing, improving. Always for your students. It's beautiful to see, and talk to people that actually really understand those arts.
Yeah, there's two things I've lived by with my training. Number one is a master only becomes a master when he returns to the basics. Okay, so I live by that rule, and we were talking about that earlier. Just learning to walk again. For example, when you're a kid, they give you a crayon and they tell you to pick a hand, right? After you pick that hand, that's it. You're good. Okay. You don't need anything else. You don't need the other side anymore. So, Tai Chi and Kung Fu teaches us to use the other side really good, which is important. Now we have a better balance in our body. Now, the other saying I live by is, yeah, 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 but can you fight? Okay. So, taken from a young man's point of view, where I was once upon a time, that meant exactly what it said, right? But now it means something different. Now it means like, yeah, 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 but can you show me something? Can you touch me? Can I feel it? Can you move me? Like there has to be more to it than just the talk or the lineage or the chart or all this history. Like, that, and that's what I look for when I go and work out with people and train is people that really know what they're talking about, not people that just recite in books and words, because that's not the same. You have to build it in the body. You know that.
And martial arts is something very special because you feel the energy when you practice with someone. My Sifu, he used to say, like, you can tell me that you be practicing for 40, 50 years, but the hand's going to do the talking by
That's
the
right.
end of the day.
That's right.
You practice it Toiso, you practice Chi Sao, any, energy, drill, movement, and then you feel the energy of your partner, your practitioner, the person that you're practicing with, your Sifu, your master. Then you see what you're talking about. You see how many years it's been put into place of practicing
That's
and
right. That
dedicating.
that tells you everything. We don't even need to talk. We can just touch hands right here, and we can
Exactly.
feel. We can have an idea from right there. That's all we need. It gets to that level of sensitivity and understanding of people and bodies, and it's deep.
Exactly. Can you explain the health benefits behind of practicing Tai Chi and the physical and mentally benefits?
Sure. Well, first of all, practicing these arts gives you a lot of mobility, like mobility beyond what you could ever imagine. It also gives you a lot of athleticism. So, whatever sport you want to play, if you've been training Kung Fu and Tai Chi long enough, you can go jump in any sports and be very competitive right away, whether you even know the game or not. You just know how to move, you know how to be in the right position, your awareness, your balance, and all that stuff is very important. The second thing it does is it really helps you to get rid of stress. The great stress reducer. And that is literally what, according to all the arts and TCM, traditional Chinese medicine and everything I've learned is what creates the problems in the body is the dis-ease. So we're working on creating ease in the body, ease of flow. You wake up in the morning and you have a stiff trap. Most people, don't know the methods to get in there and open it up and work on it and release it. And if you just leave it and you go on your day, next thing you know, you're leaning this way because you're compensated. And now we start to have all these issues. So staying with the arts, we learn to keep everything happy. It's also physical therapy before you need physical therapy, before it's an emergency. A lot of people wait till the last moment when something hurts really bad to try to fix it. And you had a lot of warning signs for the last few years. Like these arts make you address it right away and fix it before it's an issue. That is huge. That right there, I think, is everything.
Going back to what you said, going about stress, it's important that you also can say that a lot of people, like, we live in an environment, in America, they've been working 24/7. People need to work. People need to go to school and do this and do that, but they forget about their health, right? They forget about treating themselves, as you said. Like they only go to the doctor when actually things are really messed up. Bad habits, junk food, very easy access for things that harm our body. Or I used to say that, right? Our body is our temple, so if people doesn't take care of that, and it's important that when you use those things to prevent those tools to prevent that being there like for centuries of years. There's really good masters passing down lineage, passing down really good traditional martial arts systems out there, like yourself, for example. And people, they don't take the benefit of signing up, and they just look for something when they are really, really, really messed up and actually need a medical treatment, which shouldn't be like that. Like I remember when I was practicing Tai Chi with my Sifu, when I was learning, I was always with the thought, I hope that I was never gonna be needing, to go to any, medical procedure, because it can happen sometimes. We can get into an accident or anything, but preventing is a very important role into your life, because again, like people, they don't experiment pain enough until they realize they have to do something for themselves. It's really nice because I got this quote from this Jeet Kune Do instructor last week. I interviewed from Canada, Marlon, Sifu Marlon, and it's interesting that he plays in many different roles, and depending regardless of traditional martial arts. Because we're not here to talking about specifically style. Of course, you're going with your background, going over your your experience into Shaolin and Tai Chi. But regardless of the art, when you find a good instructor, when you find good somebody who can teach you properly, it's a martial arts is a life path, right? So it's beautiful that we can take benefits. Even it's medical, it's scientifically studied. There's Harvard University made several studies on the benefits of Tai Chi and traditional Chinese martial arts. And so, unfortunately, people don't realize they don't take advantage of that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really happy that this guy wrote those books for from Harvard. I met him at a push hand seminar. A really nice guy, and that stuff is really important. But getting back to all of that, like these arts have been developed over thousands of years. They were cultivated, trial and error. We're fortunate to have this living art form, right? It's organic. It's just kind of like jumping through the generations, and it's just I think one of the issues right now is it's just not as glamorous as it used to be, except for in the movies. And so that's something I've been doing here is I'm trying to really encourage community, and I'm teaching, I'm working with a lot of yogis. Yogis relate to it much quicker because they've done energetic work, they've stretched their body, they've opened up, they kind of feel some of that stuff. So working in that way, I feel like it's getting a new view because it's time for it to change somewhat, right? Everything has to evolve and become a little more modernized. So that's what we're working on down here.
That's great. That's great. How do you think it's, in your opinion, Shaolin Kung Fu is famous for rigorous training and physicality? How does it differ from Tai Chi in the terms of philosophy and execution?
Okay, so in my opinion, learning Tai Chi at the level of self defense proficiency requires that you did Kung Fu ahead of time, right? If you just start Tai Chi, you can become strong, you could get some skill, but it's an evolution of Kung Fu. It is Kung Fu. It's not just Kung Fu or Tai Chi. But the thing is, when you're younger, you don't have the maturity or the patience to move it slow and really refine stuff. You also don't understand what you're doing yet. So in Kung Fu, we start off with our stances and we work hard, and we gotta build all those muscles and tendons and ligaments, and then we move into Tai Chi. And then that brings me to a thing where a lot of there's a common saying in Tai Chi that Tai Chi doesn't use strength, but I feel like that's a misinterpretation because I feel like through my Kung Fu and Tai Chi, like I'm stronger than I've ever been in my life. Right? Health is wealth, and it's just these arts, the way they're designed and dropping down to the ground, jumping up, all the jumping kicks, all the spin and stuff, for equilibrium and all that. They just really it all multiplies together. It's supposed to be a multiplication type of it exponentially grows. It's not just you do one or the other, right? So the kung fu is like tear your body open, get yourself ready, really work hard, put in the sweat and tears. Now, okay, now we know what we're doing. Now we have an idea. Now let's fix it all, right? Let's go in there and really refine how our foot's touching the ground, how am I pushing through my leg, how am I balanced, how am I moving, how am I transitioning from stance to stance, is my stance right, all that stuff. So it's the evolution, in my opinion.
It's beautiful how these arts they combine and they connect to each other. I used to say, for example, before back in the days when I was looking for Shuai Jiao, I was misinterpreting many of the forms because I didn't have any wrestling background. So learning the forms in a way, and then after getting deeper into, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to. What I think is a very good complement to a martial arts when you have open mind and also access to some other resources such as Shuai Sanda for physical applications and also philosophical as well. So I was looking into forms. So nowadays it's funny because every single form, every single talu that I see Kyun Fa, I look into the form and when I analyze for this the applications. you see that there's many wrestling aspects, Chinese wrestling aspects into the movements, even in Tai Chi as well.
Yeah,
You know,
I went through the same exact thing with learning the forms. At first, the movements just feel super foreign. You're like,
Mhm.
what? That's how I move, and obviously you don't understand it. You don't know how to do it, but
Mhm.
over time, it's just like, oh, duh, that's super obvious, so simple. It just becomes like that. It
Becomes
changes.
natural.
And
Exactly.
and and bringing up one other point, so I also do a lot of yoga, and I feel
Nice.
like those three arts. I mean, I know they're connected, but
Hmm.
I'm actually working towards connecting them more here. So I'm teaching at Tai Chi. We're calling it Warrior Flow at some yoga studios, and we're having great turnouts, man. Great, and people, everybody loves it. And we're just opening the body and moving chi and doing some qigong and doing the Tai Chi walk and all that. But I feel like Kung Fu and Tai Chi cover a lot of things, but adding the yoga in was like the perfect blend for me to add in this extra stretch and these extra stances and these extra transitions, and it really gives you another foundation that I think should be there.
That's amazing because I've also heard this from students. I had a couple of students where they was yogi masters. They've been practicing for so many years, and after practicing kung fu with me, they were like, "Oh, this is very similar. The qigong
That's right.
exercises are very similar to the yoga." Like that's beautiful to see this. You know, something that you would never imagine that would be
Well,
connecting.
well, it was blended about 1,500 years ago. Yoga was added into Kung Fu.
Oh
The
wow.
story I know is that there was a monk that came to the Shaolin Temple. I believe it was the Shaolin Temple, and he saw all the fighters, and all the fighters were always practicing, but they looked sick and
Mhm.
unhealthy, and they were just draining themselves, from training so hard and fighting all the time. And the story is he went to a cave and meditated for like 7 or 8 years, and came back with the way to incorporate yoga into their arts, and then it got blended. That's why we have a lot of the same stances, a lot of the same postures. There's so many similarities, raising the crown, elongating the spine, dropping the shoulders, breathing in and out the nose. It's all universal. Tongue on the roof of the mouth, all of it's the same. So I feel that adding that together has really it's changed my kung fu, all of it, you know, and vice versa. But luckily for me, I started off doing kung fu for many years. So when I went to do yoga, just like your guys experienced that, I experienced the same thing when I went to do yoga. I'm like, oh, this is kung fu. Oh, this ain't that hard, it was kind of that same thing from the opposite side.
That's incredible. That's incredible to see that. How do you integrate Tai Chi's philosophy and the principles into everyday life, to the daily basis? You know.
Um, so and I talk to this with all my guys all the time is standing tall all day, paying attention to your breath, just relaxing your breath, keeping yourself calm, um, not jumping to react to actions so fast, taking a breath before you do it. Um, Walking, like we were talking about, right? When you're walking
Mhm.
every day, putting your feet correctly, getting the knees right, practicing your weight. I mean, I'm constantly practicing how I walk, never ends. When I walk through a door, how can I move through the door efficiently without stumbling and just perfectly slide through using the legs and the feet and all that? It's fun. It's like a fun challenge. So that's one way. The other way is, it just makes you a happier person in general. It's made it easier for me to make friends. It's made it easier for me to be open to other people's energies and just appreciate them. It's done a lot for me on my relationships as well.
I like to explore a little bit this more into the philosophy part because people, again, we go over about just the way of fighting, but it's the way of fighting against yourself, right? As you said, like maybe you're never gonna need, hopefully, you're never gonna need to use your physicals into to protect yourself, but you've been practicing something for so many years, and I always tell the students like the beautiful thing is to use this those tools that you learn into class. You know, all the Wude, the Modok in Cantonese, uh, for your personal prosperity. For example, going to a college, studying, relationship, career path. You know, be resilient in using all your training, not physically again, but more philosophically as well, so you can take the advantage of using those tools that you learn with your Sifu, with your master into your personal life. Because again, maybe you're never going to be, hopefully, you're never going to have to fight at some point, especially nowadays, that we have access to firearms very easily. Sometimes, to protect yourself, it's,
I
depending on the
mean,
situation, but yeah.
the sword and the firearms was literally the downfall of martial arts, right? That's where
Hmm.
people stopped practicing. And I would say there's a huge new resurgence of it now, especially with UFC and all these fight, go BKFC and all this stuff going on. People are really coming back to it now, and I feel like people are starting to look for these arts now. Jiu-jitsu has dominated for a long time, but now people are like, okay, we all know some ground game now. Now we got to start standing up. What's the next thing? So I feel like this is the place if you just want to grow strong, right? Kung Fu and Tai Chi. If you just want to grow strong and move efficiently. So I have a student, right? He's been with me for a few years. When he first came to me, he was very heavy, out of shape. Never did athletics his whole life. He's been with me about 3 years now. And the other day he tells me, he says, hey, I was out with my wife the other day, and we went to this sports bar, and there was these three guys playing pool, and I wasn't scared of them. And I was like, wow, really? And I never really thought about like you walk around being scared of people, but some people have that lifestyle, and that right there is so good for you, just to not feel scared, just to feel confident, feel okay. If something happened, I can handle it. Not that anything is happening, but just knowing that and standing in that way, nothing will happen, right? But if you stand there and you feel scared, you look scared, and your body is shrinking and so on, then you have a higher chance of people actually messing with you. So that philosophy right there, standing tall and being confident and having a strong aura, protects you by itself without a fight, right?
You said something very important because the mindset plays a big role when it comes about self-defense. When I see the image of Bruce Lee, of course, he was the legendary martial arts for a century. You cannot see someone, when you see his picture, somebody that is shy, that's just like, like you see a strong guy, a strong warrior, like right there. So
Yeah.
he's the way of
Nothing
warrior.
shy with him. Yeah.
So and when you practice, and then you can help people to overcome not only their fears, but to become a better person, and looking around and see that they have confidence again on their personal life. Because again, he's not looking for any trouble for anything, but as a human being, we tend to analyze things, and then we realize that, oh, I can be someone better than what I am, just because I'm practicing with someone who actually teaching me strong tools, is teaching me exactly the path, the way of martial arts, the way of kung fu. And it's beautiful to see things like that.
Yeah, I love that. To me, that's inspiring, right? That's great. He's with his wife, right? He doesn't have to worry so much. You can just have a nice day out with your wife and enjoy your dinner and know it's okay. That's stress right there. Stress reduced big time.
How do you teach normally beginners to approach the intensity and discipline of Shaolin Kung Fu training? Shaolin Kung Fu is being known for very tough exercises, physicality exercises. How do you teach them?
To be honest with you, when people first come, I just kind of throw them in to our class. I just tell them to keep up. If they keep up for like a month or two, then I'll start really putting more effort into what they're learning. But obviously, we just give them the basics: horse stance and bow and arrow.
Mhm.
That's where I start, just those two, and then just do the warm up, do all the kick drills with us and the stretches, and get into it. I don't think there's any real way to really ease into it. Of course, that's not advanced training, right? This is just
Of course.
the basic class. So, and it depends on the person too. Like I also do a lot of privates. So privates is a little different because I kind of have to see what they're good at and what they're not good at, and just get them to understand. And most people when they first start, they're trying to figure it all out. They already know the answers, or like you'll give them one class and like, oh, I get it, and then they think they got it already, or you'll show them a form and like, oh yeah, I understand, I got it, and it's like you don't, right? It takes time. Like you and I, we're still getting it, right? We're still
Yeah.
working the forms. We're still seeing new stuff. We're still finding new pieces. Like that's one of the beautiful things about the arts. Like it's always something to learn, and you get to a point where you don't even need a teacher. If you've trained long enough for a long enough time with sincerity, you become your own teacher. You know what to work on. You got all your basic drills. You just got to go over and over and over till new stuff reveals itself, till you feel different, till you align things and fix things. Then you go see that teacher, he tweaks you again, then you go back and train again, right? That's the process.
Let's explore a little bit more about the foundations, which I think is very, very important. Starting, you're never gonna start building a house from the roof. Is always from the basics. It's beautiful because my Sifu, every time when I go and visit him in Miami, uh, it's funny because like last time I was visiting him, I was like, oh, maybe we're gonna go over some, new stuff, or maybe we're gonna go over some advanced stuff, weapons or Tai Chi Chen, and they were like, let's polish. Let me see your basics. And then we went over to the first one, which is the 24, right at the end of 24. And then I was like, in my mind, I was like, man, I've been practicing this for so many years. What is he talking about? Like, and then after practicing, oh, you know that you have to your elbow in this movement, you have to adjust for a little bit. Your leg on that movement, you have to
Uh-huh.
polish that one. And
Right.
I was like, wow, it's beautiful to see that we always refining, regardless how many years, 10, 15,
That's right.
20, 35, we always refining.
That's where a good
It's
teacher comes in, right there. They could just give you that one, even if it just give you the elbow, right? Just that one little change. Now you go back and train, and everything is got a new view. And fixing that elbow might actually end up fixing your leg, right? Because you start to
Mhm.
align, you start to feel, and like, oh wait, how do I get in here? How do I push into this from the ground? And then you start to fix your feet. Yeah, it's cool. So we coming back to the basics. We drill for our Tai Chi classes. I constantly do the 24 over and over again. Um, my oldest student is only 3 years in, so we still work in 24. Eventually, we'll get into the 37, but right
Mhm.
now it's just basics of 24. The Tai Chi walk, part the wild horse's mane, brush knee, statue of the crane, standing like a white crane, all that stuff, just over and over and over again. And then every time they do it, I can adjust a bunch of things, but I try not to overdo it. Just one little thing here, one little thing there, just enough. We don't want to over encumber the mind where like it becomes impossible to even get one piece because you were told 10,
Mhm.
So you try to find one that makes sense and a way to explain it to them. Because that's something that some of my good teachers always told me was that like it's one thing to meet someone that has skill, but can they transfer that skill? Can they teach you? Can they give you skill? Right? That's important. That's very important.
Yeah, we live in a society where everybody wants to do everything really fast, and they think they transfer this to martial arts, which is not the same. It takes time for it to reach a certain level. We're still reaching the level, and we're still performing, we're still perfecting, we're still trying to master things. Which mastery, if you think about, is an infinite work because we're never going to actually reach that level of mastering
There's no
something.
finish
But we
line.
exactly that's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah, that's right. You just keep training, you keep refining. Yeah, that's the thing I love about it. There's always something new, and then every so often, all of a sudden, you'll feel a whole new understanding of a piece or something, or like all of a sudden you're just standing taller, or you feel like better alignment in the spine, or you just feel stronger. I love those moments. Those are great. You got to embrace those. Those are the rewards for all the training.
Absolutely. In your opinion, how do Tai Chi and Chinese Kung Fu would complement each other in the practice? So we spoke a little bit earlier. They really connect. But in your opinion, in which aspect do you think they do connect? It's just in the philosophy, maybe in the application, posture,
Well,
stances.
here's what I tell everybody, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of people go to the gym and they work out hard, and I did it for many years. I'm 50 now, so that's also part of like the evolution of the arts, right? As you get into Tai Chi, you've changed the way your understanding of working out your body is, and so on. So when we go to the gym, it's the opposite of Tai Chi Chuan, right? The entire
Mhm.
process of Tai Chi is the harmony of the body, right? Supreme ultimate is what it's called. So we're even yoga, we're creating a union in the body, so the body has to move together as one piece. You go to the gym, you're isolating chest, shoulder, bicep, arm. You're always isolating stuff, which is disconnecting, which is total opposite of what we do. Now, what I tell people is that would be considered yang, right? That's hard work. That's the hard stuff. And then you go to the gym and you work out hard, and then the next day you're like, oh, I need a rest day. That's the mistake. The rest day is the mistake. The rest day is your yin day, right? That's the day you need to be stretching, doing some light movement,
Hmm.
perfecting the way your body works, checking in. Maybe you injured yourself a little bit. Maybe you need to rotate. You got to do some stuff. You should never not be doing anything. You should always be going yin and yang. And that's how they work together, right? They're just constantly turning into each other. You might have one week where you just want to go hard every day, and then you have a week where you go soft a few days a week, and then you combine it, and then they come together, and then you in and out. And that's how they work together. They're perfectly designed together. And like I said, I add yoga into the mix, and I got three great art forms that all complement each other and just keep propelling me.
Absolutely. And if you see the history of traditional martial arts, for example, Tai Chi, when I forgot his name, I forgot the
Chain?
pronunciation. Yeah, exactly. When he came from the war and then he started developing the Shen Tai Chi, he was practicing traditional Kung Fu back then. And then the traditional martial arts became, what we have, another different style, and then evolved into many different families. We had the Yang family, we had the Yang family, we had the Wu family, when we had the Hao family, and it was spreading the art. So it fascinates me, the traditional martial arts, because people think kung fu is just one thing, and it's, respect with any other, with all my respect to any other lineage, but there's many different lineages out there, and every lineage has your different essence. It's not that one lineage or one style it's better than other, but
That's right.
it's what better suits you. And actually it's like a food, like which flavor you like more, like what kind of food you like more, and then you start practicing what you
Right.
like.
But let's say like you love pizza, right? That's your favorite food. You still go and have a sandwich, right? You still have other stuff. So it's not,
Exactly.
I feel like today, to say, oh, this guy is a tiger claw practitioner. I promise you, if you ask him what else has he done, he's going to give you a whole bunch of other stuff he did on his way to that, you know? So that's what makes it an art form. It kind of like always, whatever teacher you're dealing with is always a mixture of all the stuff he's learned over the years and what resonates with him. And also what period of his life he's at, right? So like if you get a teacher and he's in his 30s, you're going hard. You're going hard as you know, you're going beyond you can even stand up anymore. You're going to throw up and fall down. But you get that guy that's in his 60s, it's not the same.
Mhm.
Now you got a lot more yin, a lot more heaviness. Now you're training more methodically, you know, it's going to change. So that's something else to always think about when you find a good teacher. What period in their life are they at, you know?
That's very interesting. I never thought about that. That's correct. That's 100% correct. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
it changes. I mean, I've seen it change for me the way I teach
Mhm.
people. You know, I used to go way harder. Now I'll take a little more time out and give some more detail, even though I still want to rip them apart, you know, in a loving way. Because the body's got to be torn apart and all the muscles got to be built and tendons and ligaments. You know, it's a very strong system.
And it comes back to the philosophy part where you have to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. For example, like my Eiji Kundo Sifu, he always mentioned not only into put yourself into sparring or anything, but anything like that you can improve yourself in exercise. For example, you doing some exercise, you can only do 10 push-ups, then try to go over 11 today, and then tomorrow 12, so you can always be improving yourself and
And
then
then when you
becoming
get
a
to that
better
12,
version.
try to take the elbows and put them in and put it close through chamber. That's chaturanga
Exactly.
push up is chamber. That's the basic
Nice.
yoga push-up, chaturanga. So yeah, keeping those elbows down. Now we got a whole new strength, which gives you much better control of the center. Just like Wing Chun, they love having that
Mhm.
elbow down in the center. All the
Mhm.
good arts know that the elbow has to be control the center, right? So now let's take those push-ups and make them effective for our martial arts by
Mhm.
rotating the shoulders and getting the arms in place and getting the full palm pressing and really pressing in here and really, really knowing what you're pressing with, having some intent. You know, like you can do anything you want once you have learned the qualities of these arts. So Tai Chi and Kung Fu teach you qualities of your body and builds it into you. And then when you go and do your push-ups or you go and do your pull-ups, if that's what you're doing, you do it in a way that benefits the way you move and your Tai Chi and your Kung Fu.
That's amazing. Going back then, what do you think is the most important lesson students should learn from martial arts training?
I think that I think something that's very important to learn here is that it's a gradual increase in skill. It's not a overnight thing. It's not instant success. It's not taking a pill. It teaches you to not go after those like instant gratification moments. Like of course this is different, but like going out and getting really drunk, that's stimulation, that's instant gratification for that night where you feel something and something happens. These arts don't really do that to you until you've been training for a long time, right? So after you've been training long enough, when you're done with the class, you feel incredible. Like you might feel like you took a pill of ecstasy or something. Like when you learn to open and release and let your body go and move the way these arts teach you, you feel so good. And that's part of what makes it easier for you to be friendly, because you just feel good. You're not on edge. You're not angry. You can deal with stress. Like it doesn't stick to you the same. Okay, this is something I got to deal with. You take some breaths and you just do it. It doesn't hurt the same way. It doesn't attach, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And how do you see the future of traditional martial arts like Tai Chi and Shaolin Kung Fu in today's world? We
That's a
see.
really quick question. So I've been really thinking about that, and here's what I'm thinking. I think that yoga became a thing. Yoga had this huge like, I don't even know what to call it, but it just all of a sudden everybody's doing yoga. There's a yoga studio in every corner now, right? And I feel like it's time for Tai Chi for that, done in a new way. So the Tai Chi I'm teaching is not necessarily the old people in the park. I do have classes with older people that I do help them, but those classes are totally different. And those classes I just want to get them to move and open their body and just heal, right? But the classes I'm doing at the yoga schools for Tai Chi are basically all opening sets. Ji-Ben Qigong. We're stretching, we're opening, we're pulling, we're holding stances. They're burning and sweating like crazy, and it's a really hard class. And everybody after the class is like, wow, I had no idea that Tai Chi would make me feel pain or make me burn. And I'm like, welcome to Tai Chi. That's what it really is. Because only thing anybody ever sees is the old guys in the park or the old women that have been doing it for their whole life. And, that's, instead of looking at it and being like, wow, these people are still able to move after all these years. They can still go out and train and open their body and feel good about something, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what a comparison. What other martial arts do they do that? BJJ, you don't do that. You have nothing to do. If you don't have a partner, like when COVID kicked in, what did the BJJ guys do? I mean, of course, some of them still train together. I get that, right? But the ones that couldn't train together and didn't have a partner, what did they do? Man, I went so hard during COVID. I trained every day, all day outside. Just went in. Like this is the time. So it comes down to that. I think that it's time for it to start evolving. I think that BJJ became a thing, and very successful, and it showed people what ground game is. And now I think this is the next time. The next evolution is going to be these arts if they are presented in the correct way. I think that the traditional view needs to change a little bit, just like everything else in the world changes. Even what we see of the traditional view is probably not really traditional. That probably has changed, right? It all has changed. All the forms change, and they go through people. They change. They keep evolving. So it's time. It's gonna get big. It's gonna be very successful.
It's beautiful when you talk about the evolution of martial arts, because again, like we saw the boom of Bruce Lee back in the days in the 80s, 70s when he was doing movies. Everybody knew Kung Fu, and then it went down, and then it went up again, and then it always evolving and coming
It
with
became
different.
karate. Chuck
Exactly.
Norris, Elvis Presley, those guys were all karate. Karate was the thing to do back then. So, and now, now karate seems to be on the out. I don't really see many karate schools anywhere. There's probably a few around, but that's rare. Now everything is BJJ. And coming back to it, the BJJ guys, something that attracts those guys to practice, they understand what going hard is. They understand. They're open to that. Like they go hard every day, and I respect that. 10 years for a black belt, I respect that. Some of these kung fu schools, I see them giving out black belts in 2 years, and that's not okay. I think that's part of our problem in the arts is these fake teachers that are just trying to get money, and they're giving people black belts in kung fu after 2 years, and then they can't use it, and people are like, oh, well, I want to learn to fight, and kung fu takes too long to learn to fight. No, That's how it works in any art. Look at BJJ. It takes you 10 years to get a black belt. That's because to learn takes time. There is no overnight success, just like we were talking about earlier. There's no doctor that's going to give you a pill or fix anything, at least not yet, right? Maybe that Matrix
Mhm.
stuff will come true one day. You just inject and all of a sudden you know Kung Fu, but I don't know, man. It'd have to physically change your body, right? And your understanding of your body all at the same time. So that'd be pretty deep. But yeah, that's where I think it's at right now.
Yeah, going back to what we say about Americanizing the martial arts, when it comes, as you say, like there's unfortunately, we live in a society where traditional martial arts became a joke for those guys. You know, many BJJs, MMA guys just think, you know, traditional doesn't matter regardless of the art. Every art is beautiful, but unfortunately, you see many different ways of promotion. As you say, like you have an intensive program of 6 months and then you become a black belt karate instructor or taekwondo. Those are great arts, but unfortunately being promoted in the wrong way.
Yeah, I see the same thing online with like Qigong. Get certified in Qigong in 6 weeks and start teaching. Like it's just not possible. It's impossible. There's no way that can be done. But even me, when I go places, they're like, "Hey, let us see your certificate of," and I'm like, Tai Chi doesn't have that. We don't like in yoga. They have this teacher training, and I kind of wish that our arts had that. But is that even possible? Like, there's just such variety and variation, and like, it would be nice if there was some kind of standard where you had to like at least go show a governing body what you could do or send in videos and like that would be great. But we don't have that, not yet.
Absolutely. At the end, what message or philosophy would you like to share with our listeners about the importance of martial arts in
Well,
life?
one thing I tell people, look, Kung Fu and Tai Chi and yoga resonates with me, right? So for me, it's something that I love. But man, just moving your body, squatting down, bending your knees, touching your toes, stretching, whatever works for you. Like you got to get out and move. I tell everybody, rusty years or golden years, your choice. But if you wait, they're going to definitely be rusty, right? If you want to grow into a nice, happy life where you're not on a walker and you don't have to have all these medical issues, these arts will help you tremendously if you train sincerely with integrity and focus, and really try to learn.
Absolutely beautiful. And Sifu, for those people that want to practice, just tell me if you want to use this end of this show for a little bit, for a few moments, just to tell us a little bit of how to find you, where to find your social
Thank you.
media, YouTube wise.
Okay, so right now you can find me on Instagram at Train Kung Fu, like the art of training, Train Kung Fu. And then on YouTube is also the same, Train Kung Fu. TikTok, the same, Train Kung Fu. Those three right now. We're developing an app. We've been recording all the content for it, so we're going to start putting lessons out and teaching people from the beginning, real basics. When you go and when you go and learn with different teachers, there's different emphasis. With me, it's posture and alignment and release and fajing and how to really get your body in the right places.
Mhm.
That's what we really work on. But I really appreciate the time and growing community is what it's all about. I'm doing that here. I'm trying to build it in Miami. We don't have a huge Kung Fu and Tai Chi community, and all the guys that are really good kind of like think they're better than the other guys, so it's a little bit of an issue. I'm sure you experience that everywhere. It's just politics, right? That's in life everywhere, but I'm trying to bring them together. I invite them all. I always invite Sifus to come out to my classes and teach and train with me and all of us. Like, it's always an open mat. There's nobody knows everything. There's always stuff to learn from everybody. I'm sure I could sit and learn
Mhm.
from you for the next 6 months and you would have endless stuff for me, I'm sure. That's the way it goes. That's the beautiful things about these arts. There's
Mhm.
always something to gain, and if you know how to look. That's the one last thing I'll tell everybody. That's something I always tell everybody. So in any given situation, you have such a variety of the way you can view it, right? But learning to not attach to the negative qualities in these situations is of the utmost importance. And I think the arts ultimately teach us how to see the more positive and feel better about things that we're doing in life, right?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna add your social medias into the description of this video. For
Thank you.
those who are listening on the Spotify, make sure you also check our YouTube channel, and his information is going to be there. Sifu Fred, thank you so much for your time. It was a nice chat. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it for everything, for your time,
Great speaking with you.
and great to speak with you too. And I hope see you in the next future episode.
Okay, sounds great, man. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, our listeners. Thank you very much for your time, and you guys have a wonderful night, wonderful day. I mean, thank you.